You're welcome to this webinar. It's the November 8th, so we want to specially welcome you here on board. This event is hosted by Richflood, a leading continental provider of environmental and social due diligence. The topic for discussion today is review of environmental regulations in Africa. And today we are going to be having a comparative analysis of environmental related regulations, procedures and practices within the African countries. Environmental laws, as we all know, describe networks of policies, regulations, and agreements that address the effects of human activities on the natural environment. And this distinct set of regulatory frameworks do not only aim to protect the environment from harm, they also govern who can and who cannot make use of natural resources, as well as under which conditions this can be done. This workshop is segmented into two sessions. We have the morning session and we're going to have the afternoon session later on. Each session will last for an hour. And in this session, we'll be having a comparative analysis of environmental regulations and laws in Egypt and South Africa, comparing it to that of the Nigerian environmental regulations. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few items to enable us know how to participate in this workshop. First, this workshop is being recorded and the video will be made available on Richflood's YouTube channel immediately after this event. Secondly, I would like to inform us that all participants are in listen-only mode. Thirdly, we appreciate it if you rename yourself by adding the name of your organization in brackets in front of your name so that you can be properly identified when you ask questions. Let me also inform us that we have opportunity to ask questions at any time during the discussion, and our speakers would address them during the question and answer session, which is at the end of the interactive session we are going to have today. And in order to do this, kindly make use of the chat box, which is located at the bottom of your screen on a computer and at the top of the screen for tablet device users. Please do well to also include your name and location alongside your questions or comments. Thank you. So now I'd like to introduce our speakers for today. First, we have Barrister Jude Ode Amechi, who will give an overview of environmental laws. Barrister Jude is a seasoned attorney with close to a decade in the legal practice in Nigeria. He has competence in commercial transaction, corporate litigation, and environmental at Richflood. Barrister Jude, thank you for joining us today. Also, we have Mr. Ukeme Yellow, who is an expert as well, an environmental specialist, and he has handled different environmental assessment studies, ranging from environmental impact assessment, environmental audit, and so many others environmental related studies for different projects in various sectors of the economy. Also, we have Mr. Uju Sunday, who has also taken part in various projects as well, in line with the environmental regulations that we are going to be discussing today. All our speakers are seasoned, well seasoned in this area. So I would enjoin us to sit back, relax, and listen to the discourse as it goes on and on. So right now, I'm going to bring over Barrister Jude, who will give us a general overview of what environmental laws is all about. Barrister Jude, thank you very much for joining us. The stage is yours.
of environmental regulations in Africa. Even though we are going to be dwelling much on Nigerian laws and Nigerian regulations, but we'll also be doing a little comparative analysis with other regulations in different parts of Africa. As you can, you know, we have about 54 countries in Africa, but we are not going to cover every of the countries, but we will just pick one or two of those countries. So let me run through like the key points so that we'll be able to understand how about the regulations, environmental regulations in Africa. So the first, we're going to be talking about the history of environmental laws in Africa using Nigeria as a case study, then also the aims and objectives of environmental laws. What does the environmental laws, what does it aim to cure? Or what was the reason why there is the setting up of environmental laws or environmental regulation? And also we're going to be talking about the significance of laws. Why are these laws, why are they very, very important in every jurisdiction? Why are they important for regulating of the environmental activities in each of these states? And then we'll be looking at different types of laws that exist in Africa. So the first is this. I would like you to understand what a regulation is, a law is, and then a constitution is, because sometimes we are going to be interchanging these words. So maybe you'll be hearing of rules, you'll be hearing of policies, you'll be hearing of regulation. So you need to understand and know the meaning of all this. So I'll say a regulation is actually a rule or directive made by an authority which is empowered by law. I want you to take note. That is a regulation. A regulation is a rule or is a directive or is a guideline. You can say is a guideline made by an authority that is empowered by the law. So any authority that makes any law is empowered by that law to actually make a regulation concerning specific issues within the territory or within the jurisdiction in which that item is being raised. Then a law is actually a system or set of rules of conduct developed by the government or by the society over a certain territory. So a law is actually a system or a set of rules, while a regulation is actually a rule or a guideline, or rather a policy. Then the constitution, as you will understand, that every state, every nation has a constitution. So if once a constitution, a country is actually independent, the country is being ruled by a constitution. So the constitution is actually the ground norm in the hierarchies of law in a particular state or in a particular nation, as the case may be. So understanding what environmental regulations are. So environmental regulation in a nutshell are certain rules, directives, guidelines, policies that are being enunciated by different agencies of the government or agencies of state government or agencies that are being empowered to make rules or make guidelines for the supervision of environmental activity within their milieu or within their jurisdiction. So since we have understood what that regulation in Africa is, then we'll talk about the history of environmental laws in Africa. As you can know, or as maybe if you've read or you're a student of history, you will know that majority of African countries were colonized. We are colonized. If you have read in 1886 thereabout, there was this Berlin conference, and then that was how the dispatch the world powers, they took over territories. So from there they were colonized, and each of those powers that were Britain, French, the Belgium, and the Italy, and all these other countries, they had their laws. Some of these laws were not actually refined as we have it today. But as time goes on, there was need. When there was exploration, exploitation of African resources, there was rules, there were laws that were made by our colonial masters. Some of these laws were passed down from one colonial regime to the federating state or the republic states, which gained independence. As you can also note, there are only two countries that didn't go through colonization, which is Ethiopia and Liberia. That is why if you take a good look at their laws, you will see that their laws are dated back. You will see laws of 1920 something, 1915, because these laws were actually incorporated directly because they didn't have colonization experience. But Nigeria had colonization experience, Ghana had colonization experience, Egypt had colonization experience, and also Sierra Leone, Kenya. Some of these countries we're going to be looking at in brief, they had these experiences. So for instance, in Nigeria, we gained our independence in 1960, and then we became a republic in 1963. So a lot of laws were made before then, but those laws were not duly taken care of in times of they didn't take care of the environment. For instance, the exploration of coal, the exploration of oil and gas. This was when the British left, before even there was discovery of oil in commercial quantity. So a lot of laws came as a result of pre-independence and post-independence. So that is actually on the history of laws. And also, you should also know that whenever we're talking about the historical aspect of environmental laws in Africa, they are tied to the historical foundations of the African Union. When African Union became the body that every African country is part of, that was when they started accepting some of these advanced laws, advanced charters, advanced declarations, and then individual states were now personalizing it or domesticating those laws as their own original laws. That is why some of these laws, when you look at the laws we have in Nigeria, it may be similar to the laws we have in Ghana. The reason is because AU accepted these laws, and these laws were domesticated in our different entities. So we'll go straight to the aims and objectives of environmental regulations. So I've explained what a regulation is, what a law is, and then what a constitution is. We're not talking about the different constitution, but we're talking about the different regulation. And some of these regulations, we can interchange them, use them as different laws in different environmental laws, or different environmental regulation, or different environmental guidelines, or different environmental policies in different jurisdiction in Africa. Maybe in South Africa, in Kenya, in Zimbabwe, in Ethiopia, in Egypt, in Ghana, or even in Nigeria. So there are a lot of laws like that we're going to be looking at. But we want to look at also the aims and the objectives of the reason, the aims. Why was this laws? Why were they initiated? Why were these laws domesticated? Why did our government have to go the extra mile to be able to create laws that will protect the environment? I'm listing the aims already. So one of it is these environmental regulations were made to establish standards of operation. They were made to establish. So if you're writing, the first key is, or the first reason, or the first aim is that environmental law in Africa or in the different nations were made to established standard of operation. Formerly, there was no standard of operation. Anybody can take his drill, anybody can take his shovel, his digger, and go into a place, into a mining site, and start mining gold, start mining silver, start mining bitumen, start exploiting the environment. And at the end, it will pollute the environment. There was no rule, but the government saw it wise and think it wise that there need to be set of rules, set of guidelines, set of regulations to curtail the exploitation of the environment. So the second order also is to maintain order. For instance, in a place where there is no order, we have challenges in Africa. We have a lot of challenges. Some of you've heard of what is happening in Congo, where they kill people, even in Liberia, in Sierra Leone, where they even cut off the hands of people just because of drilling of diamonds or the golden pearls there. The reason is because there was no order. When there is no law, there's no order, and it will lead to chaos and it will lead to friction, which may cause even the highest form of disorderliness, which is war and civil unrest. So the aims and objective of having environmental regulation is: 1, establishing standard operation; 2, maintaining order; 3, resolving disputes where there is infractions of laws or where there are frictions between either the government and the community involved, or either the stakeholders or the community involved. For instance, every places where or locations where some of these natural resources are being domiciled, there are people who have stayed there for time immemorial, maybe 100 years, 50 years, 200 years, even down the line. For you to conduct any mining activities or do any environmental activity there, you need to follow a particular set of rules. But if you don't follow that set of rules, in the process, there may be disputes. And when there is dispute, so the government went ahead to prepare what mechanisms, dispute resolution mechanisms. So when there are infractions, so you know that someone can be able to go to court, for instance, and claim damages. Some communities can go to court maybe and claim damages, like for instance, in Nigeria, what is happening in the Ogoni? There's a Ogoni cleanup for, today, which has taken about close to 20 years of pollution, constant pollution of the environment, degradation of the environment, which led to a lot of sicknesses, led to a lot of things. So the community saw it that no, they have to go to either courts, they can even go to the international courts for them to even claim damages. So then the order also is to protect the rights, the liberties of the community, and also protect the species of this species in the environment. If these species are not taken care of or are not duly protected, apart from human, they can get into extinction. And when they are, for instance, we used to hear that we had a lot of maybe lion or is it cheetah in this part of the world or in this part of Africa, but suddenly there have been scarcity of some of these animals. It's becoming scarce for us to be able to find it. And the reason is because of the pollution we have in the environment. So the government have to make laws and regulations to provide means of addressing disputes when they arise. So then also we're going to the significance of the law. What is the significance of the law? Why do we have to have regulations in Nigeria? Why do we have to have regulation in Africa? Why do we have to have regulation in Ghana? Why do we have to have regulation? So as we put the significance is simply put, what are the importance? What are the importance of these regulations, of this law, of these guidelines, of these policies the governments they are putting? The reason for doing all this is to protect the rights of individual, is to protect the right of individual involved, is to protect the species, is to preserve natural resources also, is to protect the environment, and is to also protect the environment from pollution, and also to preserve species from possibly entering into extinction. So as we have looked at it, and we have also considered some of these their brief understanding on what the regulations, environmental regulations are. So we're just doing a little review, because if we're going to stay here and understand everything into two, I'm not sure 2 hours would be enough for us to be able to exhaust what we have. But look at, for instance, we have in Nigeria, we have the Mining Environmental Regulatory Compliance Handbook in Nigeria of 2016. We have NOSRA regulations. These are a lot of regulations in Nigeria. We have the EIA Act in Nigeria. We have a lot of regulations. And all these regulations, when you look at it, you'll be wondering, why do we have regulations here, regulations there? What happened is this: the government decides to delegate. The government decides to share the power, because the government cannot do it alone, and set up different agencies for different purposes. For instance, there is an agency in charge of the mining activities in Nigeria, both on the state level and also on the federal level. There is agencies in charge of the different areas, different items or different issues. Maybe you want to, oil and gas, for instance, you want to start exploration. There are different laws. Even for instance, even in bitumen, you want to drill bitumen, there are different agencies that are in charge. So we have the environmental impact assessments laws, as I said. We have even the guidelines for environmental impact assessment acts, sectoral guidelines for bitumen exploitation and exploration. I've said that. We have national guidelines on registration of environmental friendly products and eco labeling, even in Nigeria. We have national guidelines and standard for water quality. So even for water quality, we have regulations to govern the water quality in Nigeria. We have even policy and guideline on market and abattoir sanitation. For instance, the killing of different animals. We have even guidelines for sanitations. So we have different guidelines for all this. The reason is this: if there is no guideline, people can bring in dead meats and sell to people, and people will consume. And we know what that will the adverse effect on the citizen. So that is why on each of these, each of the government have to take proactive step in making different regulations, different guidelines, different policies to make sure they safeguard both the environmental activities and also the individuals within their location. As you can know, that it is the responsibility of every government to protect its citizen. It is the responsibility. The responsibility is not just only to give arms or to have the army to protect our borders or the police. No, there are other aspects, which is making guidelines to make sure that even the air we breathe, the water we take in, and other activities, mining activities going on, environmental activities going on, even in our water bodies, in the downstream sectors and all the other sectors are being regulated. So this is what the government is doing. Sometimes we may not be able to see it physically of what the government is doing, but we can feel this regulation in our different spheres. So we have the acts of the National Assemblies on different environmental laws, even the Land Use Act, for instance, in Nigerian Land Use Act of the 1978, made provisions for protection of all forms of environmental activities in Nigeria. Then also in Africa, for instance, we're going to be looking at, for instance, in Egypt, if Egypt has environmental protection law of 1994 in Egypt. So maybe those of you that are watching from Egypt, you can also, you can agree with me. There are a lot of laws you guys have there, and those laws, they are made as I've talked about the significance and also the aims and the objective of those laws. They were made for the protection and then the guidance of different species and also individuals. So we have also in Kenya, Environmental Management and Coordination Act of the 1999. We have also in the NEMA Environmental Management and Coordination Act of 1999. We have also in Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone went ahead to also provide in their constitution and also in their national environmental policy, which is their NEP, and also in their National Environmental Protection Act of 28 as amended in 2010. Their Mines and Minerals Act also of the 2009. So we have also, apart from Kenya, we have in South Africa Environmental Conservation Act of, which is a decree 73 of 1989. Then they have also the National Environmental Management, Air Quality Act also of 2004. They have also the Use Planning and Development Act also for their Land Act. Also, then for different countries like Ethiopia, Ethiopia has a plethora of laws. When you check, you can just browse it and check, you will see a lot of laws. All these laws are actually mechanisms. They're actually rules. They're actually policies. They're actually things that were created by the government to checkmate, to control human activities, environmental activities, so that to some extent, we will not wake up one day and we'll find out that maybe even the sun is getting closer to the earth. These things are things that, for instance, the last climate change summit that was held in Glasgow, these are the things world leaders are considering. So not only in globally are they looking at it, also Africa. So as I've said beforehand, the reason for the creation of this is to safeguard the human activities and also environmental activities. So I would like to just pause here because we don't have enough time. I've spent more than even my time for me to run through the history of environmental regulation in Africa, then the aims of an objective of environmental regulations in Africa or environmental laws in Africa, then the significance of laws. Why are these laws, why are they significant in times of the protection of the human activities and environmental activities? And then also different types of law that exist. So I've given you like a list of different laws which cannot be, they are inexhaustible. There are a lot of laws. In any country you're coming, you can Google it and check it, or you can ask some of your lawyers there. They will actually provide you with the list of the laws that governs the environment. And why we're emphasizing this is that so that everybody will be fully aware. There are laws, there are regulations, there are policies, there are guidelines. If you're going to carry out any environmental activities, burning of the bush, doing excavation, or doing even archaeological excavation, or you're doing exploration, or you want to even drill some mineral resources within your backyard, there are guidelines that have been put in place to make sure that the environment is safeguarded, that species are safeguarded, that even you as a human being and citizen of the country where you dwell or domicile, you are also safeguarded. So at this junction, thank you so much for this time. Over to you, Dr. Adiola.
Thank you very much, Barrister Jude, for that enlightenment as to the overview of environmental regulations in Africa. In case you're just joining us, today we are having a comparative analysis of environmental regulations in different African countries. And we have quite a number of them. And because this workshop is in two parts. We are going to be treating some countries this morning during the morning session, while during the afternoon session, we are going to be having discussion on some other countries as well. So do bear with us. And as stated in the chat box, if you're just joining us, if you have questions or you have contributions to make to this topic under discourse, you can drop it in the chat box so that we can attend to them during the question and answer session. So right about now, we have two contributors in our midst who we are going to hear from as well, Mr. Ojo Sunday and Mr. Ukeme Yellow. And Mr. Ukeme Yellow is going to be giving us more insights into environmental regulations in Egypt, while Mr. Ojo Sunday is going to be giving us insights into environmental regulations in South Africa. Okay, so like I said earlier, it's going to be interactive, and then in a way, we are going to be comparing it with the Nigerian regulation. So I'll start with Mr. Ojo Sunday. For instance, in Nigeria, we have the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria of 1999, which is a national legal order that recognize the importance of improving and protecting the environment, and also make provisions for so many sections, like the section 20, for instance, has an objective to improve and protect the air, the land, the water, the forest, and the wildlife of Nigeria. Section 33 and 34 guarantees fundamental human rights to life and human dignity, respectively. And then, we have so many other sections of the environment and living humans. So I would like to ask on the South African section that makes provision for this kind of things that we have in Nigeria for the Federal Republic of Nigeria Constitution of 1999. Mr. Sunday, over to you, please, on the South African regulation.
All right, and thanks so much, Mrs. Adiola. Yes, of course, we have this Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. The Nigerian one is 1999. That of South Africa was in 1996. And it is, as all other constitutions of different countries are, it's a constitution that seeks to protect the various human rights, including the right to enjoy and have access to the environment to the citizens of the country. And the particular section of that constitution that talks about the environment is the section 24. The section 24 of the Constitution of South Africa, 1996, is that the environmental rights. And according to that particular constitution, it says everyone has the right to an environment which is not harmful to their health or well-being. And also everyone has the right to have the environment protected for the benefit of present and future generations through reasonably legislative and other measures. Further, the section 24 places a duty on all spheres of government to take reasonable steps, including to make laws, to prevent pollution, to promote conservation, and ensure sustainable development, and some other sections like that. So, as I've asked, yeah, the Constitution of Federal Republic of South Africa takes care of the environment, in particular the section 4 of that particular constitution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sunday, for that. Mr. Egypt, is there anything like that that corresponds with what we have been able to hear about the Nigerian one? And
thank you very much, Dr. Adiola. I welcome all of us again. Okay, as we all know, Egypt is actually an ancient country. And if you try to cast a man back, we're meant to understand that civilization actually started in Egypt, not even Africa. That's not just for African continent, but the whole world. That is where civilization actually started from. So with this in mind, we should understand that they had actually gone ahead to try to come up with a lot of laws and regulations to guide the way they carry out activities. And for the sake of just chipping in, I think Egypt even have a constitution that dates as far back as 1923, and also the constitution that dates back as far as 1968. But in all of these, the one that actually pertains to the environmental assessment, trying to protect the environment, is one that was actually reviewed and promulgated in 1994. So that was when the current Egyptian law, the current law that takes care of environment, was actually put in place in 1994, and it's called the Environmental Protection Law number 4 of 1994. So this is the framework and an enabling law that guides all the activities which have to do with environmental protection, and activities of companies that are coming to the environment, how they are supposed to be operating, and the supervisory ministry that are in charge of this. So the law, Environmental Protection Law 1994, is the latest and law that was promulgated to take care of environment. So we can actually pinpoint a particular law or maybe constitutional date that could be referenced to this because of the nature of the Egyptian economy or their background in terms of civilization. Thank you very much. Over to you, Dr. Abiola.
Okay, thank you for that. The next thing we are going to be talking about, we'll take a look at the environmental impact assessment, for instance, which is a study that before commencement of those projects. In Nigeria, for instance, we have the Environmental Impact Assessment Act Cap E12 LFN of 2004, and it also has different sections that deals with different aspects of the environment, how exactly to go about the assessment, the Federal Ministry of Environment, which is responsible for overseeing the EIA and all of that. For the South African regulation, do they have any regulations that are in line with that of Nigeria regarding environmental, they could call it environmental assessment or maybe environmental impact assessment as we know it here in Nigeria? Mr. Sunday, over to you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yes, of course they do. Before I go to the environmental impact assessment, there is the umbrella legislation that governs the different pollution and environmental concerns in South Africa, which is the National Environmental Management Act number 107 of 1998. National Environmental Management Act number 107 of 1998, short form, which is NEMA number 107 of 1998, and then is the umbrella legislation that governs the environmental concerns in South Africa. And this is the particular legislation that introduced the environmental impact assessment management regime in South Africa. So the EIA process, basically, according to that particular act, is regarded to as a tool which requires the integration of social, economic, and environmental factors into planning, implementation, and evaluation of decisions in order to ensure that development serves the present and the future generations. And under that particular EIA, we have a lot of other hats that are under it too. So based on your question, yes, we have the EIA Act, which is under the NEMA Act of South African law. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. We would like Mr. Ukeme to also tell us something about that,
like
with regards to the
when it comes
Egypt
to Egypt
regulations.
Egypt actually has a supervisory agency, which is the Egyptian Environmental Affairs Agency. So this is the agency and is under the Ministry of Environment. This is the agency that is the main competent administrative authority. We call them competent administrative authorities that is in charge of managing or executing environmental impact as assessment in Egypt. And by way of background, environmental impact assessment was introduced in Egypt following the Egypt Environmental Protection Law in 1994. And this law was actually promulgated and to replace the law that was set up agency that which was established by the presidential decree of 631 of 1982. So this agency, which is the Egyptian Environmental Affairs Agency, is actually the main body that's in charge of executing environmental impact assessment. And one unique thing about Egypt environmental impact assessment system, the way they are all run, is that they have other competent administrative authority, which are like the other agencies, depending on the nature of the project. And these agencies play a very vital role in administering environmental impact assessment, promoting protection of the environment in Egypt. So it's not just the Egyptian Environmental Affairs Agency that does everything, like we have the Federal Ministry of Environment here. The other agency, the other competent administrative authority also play a very vital role. They even go as far as issuing guidelines, reviewing reports, and also lending the experts advice to the proponents of these projects. So that is like a background to how the environmental impact assessment is being run in the Arab Republic of Egypt. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. The next question I'm going to ask is about regulatory bodies. In Nigeria, for instance, we have certain regulatory bodies. We refer to them as MDAs, that's the ministries, departments, and agencies. Under the ministry, we have the Federal Ministry of Environment, which is responsible for the general overseeing of all this environmental protection related activities. We have the Ministry of Mines and Steel Development, which is restricted to the mining sector. We have that of Ministry of Agri for the agri sector. We have for the Ministry of Works, Ministry of Power, and all of that. And for departments, for instance, we have department formerly known as Department of Petroleum Resources. Also for agencies, we have NESRA, we have NOSRA, and all of that. So I'd like to know, does these countries also vest powers, certain powers in agencies, or maybe they call them departments or ministries in their own countries, just trying to have a look at the similarities they may have with the Nigerian regulation. Over to you, please, Mr. Sunday.
All right, thank you. Yes, we have a lot of ministries and agencies in South Africa that regulate the activities that relate to the environment. And then the supervisory ministry in charge of the environment in South Africa is the Ministry of Environment, Forestry, and Fisheries. It was formerly the Ministry of Environmental Affairs, but when the different ministries were merged together, it's now referred to as the Ministry of Environment, Forestry, and Fisheries. And under this ministry, we have a lot of acts, a lot of laws that guide the activities that relate to the environment. We have some sectoral laws as well that guide different sectors in the environment. So other ministries are the Ministry of Agriculture, Land Reform, and Rural Development. We also have the Ministry of Human Settlement, and also we have the Ministry of Mineral Resources and Energy that deals with the activities that relate to the environment in the mineral resources sector and the energy sector. And also in there, we have the Ministry of Water and Sanitation. This is the ministry that is in charge of the activities that relate to water, the water bodies, and the coastal regions in South Africa. And the major department in the Ministry of Environment that really deals with that is responsible for protecting, conserving, and improving the South African environment is the Department of Environment, Forestry, and Fishery. That is the major ministry that is responsible, like our own Federal Ministry of Environment. So that is the major ministry that is responsible. And then under that particular ministry, we have different branches. We have the air quality and climate change. We have the biodiversity and conservation branch. We have the chemicals and waste management branch. We have the environmental advisory services branch. We have the environmental programs. We have the legal authorizations and compliance inspectorate. this particular branch is one that makes sure that all the laws and regulations are being complied with by different people. Also, we have the branches that deal with the oceans and the coast to make sure that the oceans and the coast in South Africa is secured. So also the other departments are the Department of Water and Sanitation. And this is the department that is responsible for the formulation and implementation of the policy that governs this particular sector, the water and sanitation sector. And they seek to promote effective and efficient water resources management. And they're also responsible for the monitoring, compliance, and enforcement. Other department is the Department of Mineral Resources. The Department of Mineral Resources that grants mining and prospecting rights and approves environmental management plans or programs. Like in Nigeria, we have a lot of assessment that's in the mining sector. So this particular department in South Africa is one that is in charge of the mining sector, that is in charge of the environmental activities in the mining sector. Other departments and agencies are the South African National Biodiversity Institute, that is in charge of the biodiversity aspect. Also, we have the South African Weather Services, the South African Weather Services. Also, we have the South African National Parks that are in charge of the national parks in South Africa. So these are a few of the ministries, departments, and agencies that are in charge of the environment in South Africa. Thank you so much.
All right. In addition to that, in the case of Egypt, like I mentioned earlier, Egypt has a central body which is in charge of administering environmental impact assessment, and the Egyptian Environmental Affairs Agency, which is under the Ministry of Environment, is the central authority that is in charge of EIA. And they have a responsibility. Their main responsibility include the setting the requirements and criteria to undertake environmental impact assessment. They also issue environmental impact assessment guidelines and also review EIA reports. So another unique thing, like I mentioned earlier, is that there are other governmental agencies, which are called competent administrative authority, which play a very vital role. So what the Egyptian Environmental Affairs Agency does is just supervise the application of the law, and by the sectoral ministries, which is other competent administrative authority, like I mentioned, are in charge of the governing bodies that are in charge of executing powers of the EIA process. And they have also powers which include involving in the initial screening. They also check the EIA document concerning the location of activities and forward them to a judicial environmental agency for review. They also issue licenses for project construction and operation. So they issue licenses in that regard. So they play a very vital role, and they have a very powerful role in deciding some of the powers that has to do with this environmental law in Egypt. So they actually interface. They actually the body that interfaces with the project proponent and the EIA requirement. So whatever has to do with the EIA requirement and the project proponent are the one that interface with in that aspect. And they also provide technical assistance to the proponents to ensure that the EIA process goes through the normal process and approval throughout all the various stages of the project. So that is like a background of the unique nature of how the EIA is supervised, and the supervisory authority that is in charge of EIA administration in Egypt. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. I would have liked us to still ask more questions, but I've received quite a number of questions from our participants as well, and I feel it's actually going to be good. We take them because of our time. Another question I would have asked from our contributors is about the compliance and enforcement strategies being adopted by these countries, but it aligns in a way to one of the questions that I received so far, which is from Mr. Boyega Olorunfemi. He quoted the Nigerian Constitution of 1999, specifically the Section 20, which has to do with protection and improvement of the environment, as well as safeguarding the water, the air, the land, and the wildlife of Nigeria. So I'd like to know, he says, how has this been reflected in the entire application of our laws? Is that section defective or need to be more specific in nature to be effective? Then it goes further to ask, what better ways can our law be implemented for sustainable development? I would like Mr. Ukeme to just address that before we wrap it up. Over to you.
All right, thank you very much. Talking about how the laws are addressed, I think one unique way that we handle that, which has to do with the setting up of the NESRA body in Nigeria to actually enforce some of the laws that have already been promulgated or issued by our National Assembly, the various acts and regulations that have been drafted to guide the management of the different sectors of the economy. So one way of enforcing and ensuring that this process or this aim is achieved is through the enforcement of these laws, which have to do with the NESRA regulation of 2007. So NESRA actually has the powers to enforce all the laws that have been set up or try to follow up with defaulters of the various laws or the different economies or proponents that try to ensure that whatever law that was set up to manage this economy or to manage the environment is actually enforced and done in a proper way. So basically, that is one way of ensuring that this is actually done and ensures sustainability. I don't know if that has actually addressed the question.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if Mr. Ujo Sunday has something to add to the compliance and enforcement of just in one
thank you.
please.
Apart from NESRA, which is what you can refer to as the police of the environment in Nigeria, we have some other agencies or some other departments in different sectors as well that make sure that these environmental laws are being complied with. We have the Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR, which is in charge of the oil and gas sector. They make sure that the activities of the oil and gas sector is in compliance with the environmental laws and regulations. Also, we have the mining, in the mining sector, we have the MEC. The MEC is the mining compliance the mining compliance department that is in the Ministry of Mines and State Development that makes sure that the different environmental regulations and law in the mining sector is being complied with. So I think one way in which we have to help these agencies and ministries, if we see anything that is going wrong in our environment, if we see some people that are polluting the environment in one way or the other, just to let them know. I think all this, the NESRA and this department, they have state offices in the 36 states in Nigeria. So just make the complaint known to them, and I believe they will take the necessary steps. So that is what I have to add to that. Thank you.
Okay, we want to say thank you very much to all our three contributors. Barrister Jude, thank you. Mr. Ukeme Yellow, thank you. Mr. Ujo Sunday, we appreciate you for such an enlightening and informative session that we have had with you today. I will just conclude by saying that in order to achieve sustainable development and live in harmony with nature, environmental protection and control should be an integral part of what we take as responsibilities, even as citizens of this country, because Nigeria as a country has actually made provision for laws, for regulations, for policies at various levels, at the national level, at the state level, even at the local government level. So it is the responsibility of every one of us as individuals to ensure that our environment is protected, and then we ensure sustainability of the use of the natural resources that we have all around us. And with this, I will say we have come to the end of the morning session. Join us again during the afternoon session so that we can have more time to elaborate more on different regulations that we have in some other. If your questions have not been attended, it is because of our time, and that is why we have this workshop in 2 sessions, so that if you are unable, Mr. Ibrahim, you can chat, you can use the chat box, you can drop your message there. If you're unable to attend to it right here now, we attend to it during the afternoon session, because all participants are in listen only mode. You can only send in your comment or contribution or question via the chat box. So I want to say a very big thank you to every one of us. We appreciate you for your active participation in this workshop. We look forward to having you during the afternoon session. But before we wrap it up completely, we would like to have a group photograph. We would like to have a group photograph with every one of us who are here present. So by so doing, we'd like you to put on your camera. Yes, please, the technical team, please send a notification to everyone. Send a notification to everyone to put on their camera. Yes, send a notification to everyone to put on their camera so that we have a group photograph before we go. And as said at the beginning of this workshop, the video is going to be made available on our YouTube channel. So you can check Richflood out on YouTube so that you'll be able to access all the videos. And then if you have, and if you want to reach us via email, you can send your information to, you can send your question or further contribution to info@richflood.com. 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 So put on your cameras, We'll see you again at 3 p.m. We'll see you again at 3 p.m. We have to stop share so that we can have a full screen of everyone here in our midst. Wow, Madam Fumi Juliet, thank you for joining us. Mr. Jacob Nekri, thank you. Madam Hannah Sunday, thank you so much for joining us. And Mr. Boyega Femi, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us. We have some people who are yet to put on media. Thank you very much. Mr. Tokumbo, Karimu, thank you very much for joining us, everyone present here on record. Thank you once again. Thank you so much. We hope to see you in the afternoon at 3 p.m. Make use of the same link, and then we continue with this review. If you're unable to take your question out, there are so many questions I couldn't take at all. So I think we have about 7 of them I couldn't take at all because of our time. You know, this is a very interesting topic. Everybody is interested in matters of the environment, especially when it has to do with the roles of the government in ensuring that the environment is being kept safe. So we have a lot of questions, and then I think we're going to be starting with them during the afternoon session. So thank you so much once again. With this, I would say au revoir. Bye.